I'm Principal Sheep. Welcome to the second video of Principal Sheep. Before we start, please like and subscribe. Today, we will be learning about levels of organization. Cells can be eukaryotic or prokaryotic. Eukaryotic cells are very complex and includes all animal and plant cells. Prokaryotic cells are smaller and much more simpler. Today we will be learning about eukaryotic cells. This eukaryotic cell is a cell of a basic cell of an animal. I have labeled these organelles inside of this cell. This arrow points to the cytoplasm. Inside the cytoplasms, all of the chemical reactions happen. This arrow points to the mitochondria. The mitochondria is the site where aerobic respiration occurs and transfers energy throughout the cell. This arrow points to the cell membrane. The cell membrane controls what goes in and out of the cell. This arrow points to the nucleus. The nucleus contains all the genetic information of the cell and controls what happens inside of it. This arrow points to the ribosome. The ribosome is where the protein is made. This cell is a plant cell, a basic plant cell. And plant cells have all the things that an animal cells have, but they have some extras. This arrow points to the cell wall, which is made of cellulose and helps support the cell. This arrow points to the vacuole, which contains cell sap, which is basically a solution of sugars and salts. And it also helps support the cell. This arrow points to chloroplast. It goes to photosynthesis for food. A lot of cells that work together to do a job is called a tissue. A lot of tissues that do a job together is called an organ. A lot of organs that work together to perform a specific function is called an organ system. Not all cells look like the one from before. Undifferentiated cells, also known as stem cells, can divide into more of its kind. Stem cells are in early human embryos, and they're exciting to medical researchers and scientists because they can turn into any type of cell at all. Adults have stem cells too, but they're only found in specific places. For example, in your bone marrow. Stem cells from embryos or bone marrow can be grown in labs to create clones of them to use for research or curing diseases, which leads me on to my second point. Cells are already used in medicine to cure diseases. For example, stem cells from the bone marrow from a healthy person can be transferred to an unhealthy person and cure them and replace their faulty blood cells. Embryonic stem cells can also replace many cells in sick people. However, there is a downside to all this. Stem cells grown in labs can be contaminated with other diseases, therefore making the sick person who is supposed to receive the healthy cells more sick in the process. Continue on, I will now be talking about the 6 main groups that organisms fall into. The first group is plants. Plants are multicellular, have chloroplast for photosynthesis, and has cellulose walls, and they store carbohydrates as sucrose or starch. The next group is animals. Animals are also multicellular, but don't have chloroplast because they don't go through photosynthesis and instead eat other organisms for nutrition. Most have nervous coordination, which means they respond rapidly to changes around them. And all animals move around, for example, using their legs to walk or using their wings to fly. The third group is fungi. Some fungi are unicellular while others are multicellular. Examples of unicellular fungi is yeast, for example. A multicellular example would be mushrooms. Multicellular fungi have bodies made of mycelium. Mycelium is made of hyphae. They don't go through photosynthesis, and although they have cell walls, they aren't made of cellulose, but chitin. Fungi eat in a way we call saprotrophic nutrition, which means they excrete enzymes which then dissolves the things around them, and then they can soak up the nutrients. Fungi store their carbohydrates as glycogen, similarly to the animals. The fourth group is protists. They are unicellular and microscopic, meaning they are very small. Some have chloroplasts while others don't. And some are similar to plant cells while others are similar to animal cells. The fifth group is bacteria. They are unicellular, microscopic, and have no nucleus. They have circular chromosomes of DNA, and some photosynthesize. Most feed off of other organisms, and they don't mind whether they're living or dead. The last group is viruses. Viruses are not cells, but rather particles, as we do not consider them as living. They're very small, smaller than bacteria even, and the only thing that they do in Mrs. Grant is reproduce. And even then, they need to be inside of a living cell called a host to be able to. Viruses are parasitic and infect any living organism, and they have many different shapes and sizes. They have no cellular structure. They have a protein coat around some genetic material, although they don't have a nucleus. That is it for today's class. Please like and subscribe if you learned something new. 3, 2, 1.